never thought I'd be the kind of woman who'd fall head over heels for someone I barely knew. But with Chris, it was instant. Charming, funny, with a touch of mystery. He had that magnetic energy that made everyone lean in when he spoke. We met at a friend's rooftop party in LA, and within 2 months, we were inseparable. Chris was the kind of man who made promises with his eyes. He worked in marketing, at least, that's what he told me, and was between gigs, as he called it. I had a stable job in tech and was doing pretty well financially. I never minded paying for dinners or picking up groceries. At first, it felt empowering modern love, right? But looking back, maybe I was just ignoring the red flags. He moved in with me quickly, claiming his lease had ended suddenly, and his landlord had been a creep. I didn't ask too many questions. I was just happy to have him close. He'd make me coffee in the mornings, leave sweet notes on the fridge, and call me his forever. I had always dreamed of a small, intimate wedding. But Chris, he had big visions. He said, "Babe, let's do it right. Let's make it unforgettable." And somehow I agreed. I dipped into my savings, thinking love was worth investing in. He didn't have money. He was open about that. "I've had some bad luck financially," he told me one night. "But with you by my side, I feel like I'm finally going to get back on my feet." I believed him. I wanted to believe him. We planned a dreamy beachside wedding in San Diego. I paid for the venue, the dress, the food, the music, everything. He promised he'd start contributing once he got this freelance deal locked in. It never happened. Instead, I found myself covering more and more. He borrowed my credit card a few times, just for gas, and promised to Venmo me back. He didn't. 2 weeks before the wedding, I overheard him on the phone late at night. He was pacing the living room while he thought I was asleep. Once, "We're married. It's done. I can settle all this crap and start clean." My stomach dropped. I waited until he hung up, and when I asked him who he was talking to, he smiled and said, "My cousin. He's been in a tough spot." I didn't push. I didn't want to know the truth. I thought maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe it was wedding stress. But deep down, something didn't feel right. The wedding day was beautiful. San Diego gave us a perfect golden sunset. The breeze off the ocean made my veil dance in slow motion. Everyone said we looked like the happiest couple alive. And for a moment, I let myself believe we were. But the truth was already cracking underneath the surface. Chris's vows were sweet, almost too perfect, like they were rehearsed from a script. He cried as he said them, which melted everyone's hearts, mine included. I remember thinking, whatever doubts I had, I'm leaving them behind today. We didn't go on a honeymoon right away. Chris said it was better to wait until he sorted some financial stuff out. He told me he had debts, old medical bills, credit card balances from years ago. He said he didn't want to burden our marriage with them. Again, I believed him. I even offered to help. He refused at first, but then, little by little, things changed. He suggested we merge our bank accounts to build trust and a future together. I hesitated, but he played it like a romance card. What's mine is yours, and what's yours is ours. It sounded sweet. It sounded right. So I said yes. Within a week, he started making transfers. A few hundred here, 1,000 there. When? I asked about them. He was always vague. Paying off collections before they hurt our credit score. Helping my mom with a loan I forgot she co-signed. Taking care of some legal stuff. Then one afternoon, I checked the account. Over $12,000 was gone. I froze. When I confronted him, he got defensive. "Why are you spying on me?" he snapped. "Don't you trust your own husband?" That hit me like a punch to the chest. I didn't even know how to respond. I just stood there, tears welling up, unsure whether I was crazy or being manipulated. "I married you because I love you," I whispered. He softened, came close, touched my cheek. "And I love you, baby. I'm just under pressure. Everything I'm doing is for us." I wanted to believe that so badly. I nodded, but that night, while he was in the shower, I looked through his phone. I know. I shouldn't have. But something in me needed answers. There were texts, too many. Messages to old friends, guys I didn't know, talking about cleaning up debts, and her money saving my ass. One message read, "She has no clue. Marriage was the smartest move I ever made." I dropped the phone. My hands were shaking. I sat there in silence, the sound of the water running behind me, wondering how I had gone from bride to bank account. For nouns, illusion was breaking, but I wasn't ready to face the full truth. Not yet. After reading those messages, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to Chris, wide awake, listening to the rhythm of his breath, wondering how someone could lie so smoothly and still sleep like a baby. My mind spiraled through every moment, his charm, his romantic gestures, his tears during the vows. Were they all rehearsed? I didn't say anything for days. I watched him, studied him. That's when I started noticing all the cracks in his story. He was suddenly working late more often, coming home with excuses about car trouble or last-minute errands. He never let me see his phone anymore. He even changed his password. One night, I followed him. I waited until he said he was heading to meet a client downtown. I waited 15 minutes, then got in my car and followed the location he always used his gym. But his car wasn't there. I kept circling until I saw it, parked outside a small bar in a part of town I didn't recognize. I sat in my car for almost an hour, heart racing, watching through the windshield like a silent ghost. When he finally walked out, he wasn't alone. A woman was with him. Blonde, tall, laughing. She leaned in like they were close. Too close. They hugged at his car. Then she got into hers and drove away. He stayed outside for a moment, checking his phone. That's when I drove off. I didn't want him to see me. Not yet. Back home, I cried. Not because he was cheating. That almost felt expected by now. I cried because everything I believed in, the love, the marriage, the forever, felt like a fantasy I had bought into with my eyes shut. But I didn't. Break. I started planning. I gathered documents, screenshots, transactions. I found out he had transferred nearly $30,000 out of our shared account into accounts I didn't recognize. I quietly scheduled a meeting with a divorce lawyer. I didn't even tell my family. I was too embarrassed. But I knew something he didn't. I still had control of one joint credit card, and I tracked a charge he made to a hotel 2 towns over. So I went there. And that's where everything changed. I found him in the hotel lobby, not with the blonde woman, but with a man. An older man. They were arguing. I hid behind a pillar and watched. "I did what you asked," Chris hissed. The man shoved an envelope in his hand. "You got paid. Now get lost. I'm not your sugar daddy." Chris looked panicked, desperate. My stomach turned. I didn't know what kind of game he was playing, but it wasn't just me he was using. He was in deep, maybe deeper than I'd ever understand. I took a photo of the scene. Then I left before they saw me. That night, I packed a bag and drove to a friend's house. I didn't say a word to Chris, but I left a note. Just 3 words. "I know everything." When I left that note, I half expected him to come running after me, crying, begging, explaining, but he didn't. Instead, he disappeared. No calls, no texts. Just silence. For 2 days, I stayed with my friend Lily, trying to piece myself back, together. She poured wine, made pasta, held me when I cried, but nothing filled the hollow space inside me where my marriage used to live. Then, on the 3rd day, a message came, from an unknown number. You think you know everything. You don't. I did it for us. Us, I stared at the message. He still had the audacity to pretend this was for us. I didn't reply. Instead, I went back to the lawyer. We began the paperwork. Chris was served the next week. He didn't contest anything. No fight, no defense. It was like he wanted to disappear quietly, but closure doesn't come with silence. So I made one last move. I requested a private meeting. No lawyers, just him and me, in a public cafe. When he walked in, he looked smaller somehow. Not physically, emotionally. Like the mask he wore had finally cracked. I didn't mean to fall for you, he said as he sat down. At first, it was just convenient. You were kind. You had a good job. No drama. My heart twisted. You were a plan? I asked. He nodded. Slowly. I was drowning in debt. My credit was destroyed. I thought if I could just stabilize my life, marry someone who had her act together, I could breathe again. And the love? I asked. He hesitated. I grew to love you. I really did. I shook my head. You grew to love what I could do for you. He didn't argue. He just sat there. Who was the man at the hotel? I asked. He looked ashamed. A loan shark. I borrowed money for the wedding. I didn't want you to know I was broke. I figured once we were married, it would all work itself out. It was the most honest he had ever been. And yet, it changed nothing. I loved you, I whispered. But I loved a version of you that never existed. When I stood to leave, he didn't try to stop me. He just watched. That was the last time I saw him. The divorce finalized quickly. I moved out of the apartment, got my own place, a small space, but it was all mine. Mine, with no lies, no performance. People ask questions. I kept my answers simple. It wasn't meant to be, but deep down, I knew the truth. I was never the wife. I was the lifeline, and when he no longer needed saving, he let me go. It hurt, but it also freed me. Because now, for the first time in a long time, I was living for me. And that was priceless.